one of the things I found very impressive was that since 2007, she's been named to multi-channel news and cable facts as most influential minorities in cable. And then in 2013 and 2014, she was named one of the most powerful women in cable as a top woman in technology. Very impressive. And then when she's not doing stuff for work, it sounds like she likes to volunteer, as well as act in what is probably one of her more or most important roles, being a mother to her two sons. So thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's participating via phone. Thank you to all of you who made the time to be here today. I really, really appreciate you taking out the time. Hopefully, I can impart some wisdom on you. And for all of you who know me, you know that I have an expectation that you will impart wisdom on me as well. So for those of you that are further away, once you're finished eating, if you could move up so we can make this just a little bit more intimate, that would be great. And for those of you on the phone, we're a little bit scattered, but looks like a pretty full room, so thank you. I also would like to leave some time for questions for those that are on the phone. So I don't know who has to leave by 1 o'clock. What I was hoping we could do was do a little bit of networking. So let's see how it kind of works out. I'm prepared to answer the questions that you all prepared. And I'd also like to get answers from you as well. So this will be very interactive, okay? All right. So anyone move up, please feel free. There's all this space right here. Okay, if you're comfortable where you are, that's fine. Can we just find out really quickly who's on the phone? Can we unmute, or are there?
They're on mute.
Did I take too much time?
They're on mute. There's a lot of people.
A lot of people? Okay, there's a lot of people, so welcome a lot of people on the phone. So what I'd like to do is just quickly take you through my career. It spans a really, really long time, and I can't even believe I've been with Comcast for 14 years. I started my career with Bell Pennsylvania, Bell Atlantic, back before with Verizon, and did business development. Went to Pico from there, Pico Energy for a couple of years when they were getting into the unregulated areas of the business, especially getting into telecom, and then went from Pico, came from Pico over to Comcast. What I wanted to point out was, we're talking about this whole concept of networking, and networking has probably been the most significant factor in landing me where I am now. And I will start with the end in mind by saying that age-old phrase of it's not what you know, it's who you know. That still holds true, but not entirely. And it's never been entirely true for me, or I think for any of us, because what you know, that's table stakes in order for you to just be at the table, in order for you to just be considered. But who you know really provides you with the opportunity that we sometimes don't get. My first job with Verizon, actually before Verizon, was with MCI. I had an interview with someone who a good friend connected me to. That person gave me some guidance. They looked at my empty resume, my great degrees with my empty resume, and said, if you want to get into Bell, Pennsylvania at that time, you need some experience, especially if you want to come in on a manager level. And so I went to a smaller startup called MCI, and I got 9 months of experience. And then I was ready to come back and try again with actually an interview with Bell, Pennsylvania. And so that was, the MCI was my first kind of proactively reaching out, looking for a job, and getting that job. Used my network to get the interview with Bell, Pennsylvania, and I was with them for more years than I want to mention. And was recruited actually from Pico Energy. And the reason why was because they started getting into the telecom business, and they wanted to use my contacts. Because one of the things they wanted to do was begin to upgrade networks, and what better companies than the Bell companies. And so that was kind of my early experience with networking and seeing the power of a network. I don't know how many of you know Bruce Gordon, who was, he was the highest ranking African American at Bell Atlantic for many years, but he was also, he headed up the NAACP for several years in the, I think maybe like 2005, 2006, somewhere around. then, but he was the connector. So he was the person who enabled me to go back to Verizon, even though I was no longer with Verizon. I was an employee of Pico Energy, and he connected me with the right people that could help me to identify business opportunities for Pico. Great connection there. I was with Pico for a couple of years and really loved what I did. It was just I was on the road 80% of the time, and that was a lot for when my children were really young. And interestingly enough, Verizon had started out as my top account, but Comcast became my top account. And so I got to know the company from the outside looking in and loved it. I mean, the leadership, the fact that they would roll up your sleeves, do it even at the most senior levels. And so my role evolved to one where I identified business development opportunities for Pico and Comcast to work together. And that was fun. I really enjoyed that. Then someone who was a friend, who has since become a best friend, had lunch with me one day and said, hey, guess what? I'm going over to Comcast. Like, I'm becoming a Comcast employee. So I was excited because I knew from the outside looking in how great the company was. She would give me the opportunity to see to learn about the company from the inside. Based on, okay, is it as great on the inside as it appears on the outside? Some of you may know her. Her name is Tina Simmons. And so she was with Comcast for a year. And after that year, I was interested in looking at opportunities. She connected me to one person who wasn't the ideal match, but that person that I interviewed with connected me to another person who is still near and dear to my heart today, and some of my other friends and colleagues here who gave me the opportunity to develop this new, we developed a new group. I mean, he was the first employee, I was the second, and it grew, and like I said, some of my colleagues are here today, grew into a pretty substantial group. Again, that power of that network there. And so I've been with Comcast. I don't even know if I had to really put a number on my contacts, I wouldn't even be able to, because it's not just within Comcast, but it's within the industry, it's all the third-party partnerships, and it's also the connections from my connections. And so this is some really, really important stuff to me, and hopefully you all have been taking advantage of the contacts that you have. Just in terms of Verizon, I probably still have 20 deep relationships. When I say deep, not just people that I occasionally run into or something, but people that are still considered, I consider to be mentors and others. And that's a key piece of it, and that is not just developing a relationship, but maintaining that, especially when you don't want anything from them. That's really the best time, and even imparting information on them. So probably 20 relationships there. I was trying to enumerate those, and I just don't know. Out of Pico, my 2 years there, I was one of only 2 girls in my whole department. The other one was my assistant, and so that was one of the reasons I wanted to move on also. I missed girls. I like guys a lot. But I wanted a little bit more, and I had so many of them at home because I had 2 boys, a husband, and a cat that was male. And then coming to Comcast, I felt like I had the best of all worlds. And back then, as I look at the number of people of color here, I'm really encouraged. Are we where we need to be? Totally, the answer is no, but when we look around, and those of you who've been here a while, we've definitely made progress, and not just in terms of numbers, but I think in terms of relationships and in terms of the support that we give one another. And I can look around and see, I mean, some people just got this invite last night and just said, hey, I'm there. I know they had to move things around, and I appreciate you all for that. At the same time, and the leadership within this organization as well as the others, I hope they know I always have their support, and that's what we need. I mean, we really, really need to support one another. We, not just people of color, but just in general. I mean, we create a better environment. So just wanted to give you a little bit of the background. I'd like to start getting into the questions, but I just want to pose a couple for you. Can everyone hear me okay on the phone? Can you unmute?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay,
yeah.
Great. So there was a half an hour of networking scheduled between 11:30 and 12, and when I walked in at 11:45, we had a substantial number of people in the room. And you were sitting down having lunch. Were you sitting down having lunch with people that you didn't know? How many of you, people that you didn't know? That's really excellent, okay. How about those that were sitting with people they normally would? And I do that sometimes. That's good. You did that? Okay. That's pretty nice about it. The reason I asked that was I was wondering if the networking took place where you were introducing yourselves to one another, and so I'm really, really happy to hear that that's what you were doing. And you just never know what connection, what that will result in, or what you have in common with someone, where the next door neighbor had a connection with you, as in our case with Karen. But just in terms of the whole networking concept, how many of you, when you think about networking, you have to go to something, and you kind of take a deep breath, and you walk in, you're like, oh, networking. How many of you don't have the most positive feeling about networking? Why is that? Mm-hmm. Great point. It seems inauthentic. What else? Shy? I used to be shy, believe it or not, really, really shy. And when I go into a room where I don't know people, I still feel that. So I've got to take that deep breath and just kind of jump in. You have your hand up?
Yeah, sometimes it's awkward after you say hello, my name is, okay. What do you do? And when you say from it, so sometimes awkwardness.
That's right, awkwardness. I mean, that's probably at the top of the list. What else? Yes?
I think sometimes it's also just depending on the event. We can be very busy, and it seems like sometimes you don't know if you're going to be able to develop something, and schedule or their schedule, where they're going to go, or they want to come and go talk to them or something. So sometimes it's just kind of, I don't know, sometimes you kind of anticipate it before, but yeah, that kind of makes you a little nervous.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're anticipating or you're dreading or all these other reasons, but all of those things that you all mentioned that you may experience, the rest of us do too, right? We do too, right?
Yes. Right.
In a lot of cases. And so in understanding that I'm not the only person who's walking in feeling that way, but you are too, that's what I try to keep in mind. And so how do we combat something like that? Sherry?
Well, for me, another introvert that Clark has mentored, it's really just having those one or two questions or points about yourself that you want to break the ice with. So if you know that when you meet somebody, you introduce yourself, tell them something about the department you work in, and then ask them, then you put it on them to start having a conversation with you, and it just kind of flows from there.
You put it back on them. Great point. You're trying to find common ground, right? So in our case, my next door neighbor took care of her children. How did that come up? I don't even know. No idea. But that's what you look for, right? And so if it's children, oh, you have two boys. I have two boys also. What are your boys' names? How old are they? Then you begin to engage them. Then it becomes less about you're feeling like you have to perform or give, but you're also getting back and you're getting the person engaged. So that's one of those tactics that's a small thing, but it's always trying to find that common ground. And sometimes that's not easy, but you just continue to kind of do that. And there's some people that you click with right away, others you don't, right? And that's okay too. Yes, ma'am?
So the way that I've gotten over it over time has been to remember that networking is nothing else but getting to know someone. It could be a professional networking event, but at the end of the day, people are people are people. So establishing that human connection with someone in a networking environment is no different than establishing that relationship at the bus stop because you're waiting for the bus to get there. And so once you I remove the title and the companies and everything associated with it, then they're just one human being whose story I'm interested in, and it makes things easier to and more natural.
You're absolutely right. How is this any different? It just feels more formal because we're saying we're networking, so get together, whereas there's no pressure on you at the bus stop, right? Why is the pressure here? So those are some of the things where it's just, understanding that the other person is feeling the same thing. It's just like, I won't say it's like speed dating or whatever, but sometimes it feels like that. It feels together, right? So all of those things. But I read an article recently about those people who approach networking and networking opportunities not so much out of what can I get out of it, but what can I share or give to others. They tend to have a better experience because your expectation is different. And that's why when we talk about the whole concept of networking and establishing relationships, when you don't want anything, that helps to solve what issue, what concern?
Making sure that you have a connection that's authentic and based on mutual respect and understanding and not just what can I get.
So it's that authenticity piece again, right? It feels more authentic if you're introducing yourself to someone and you've got no hidden motive. Where's Jamar? We met in the elevator, right?
We did.
It was just, he looked like he was new. I hadn't met him before, and so we just kind of struck up a conversation. People that are new here, we don't realize they may not even know many people, and how can we kind of bring them in? Same thing with Olu, who joined my group when?
About 2 months ago.
2 months has been that long? Okay. So having fun, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he came, I mean, we met on a day when we had an event. It was a native event, right?
Yeah.
And he came that evening and got a chance to connect with other people. So it's really, that makes it easier when you are starting to establish a family, right? How many of us feel like we have family here at Comcast? I do. You don't? Who said no? Yes. What's your name?
Melza.
Okay.
It's not that I don't feel like I have family. It's like, it's more of because I'm new, I'm establishing that family. I mean, by all of us being professionals and professionals of color, automatically, it's just, I want to make sure that speaking to the authenticity piece, that when I reach out to people, it's more of, I want to get to know you because you're awesome and I've heard about you, less than, I have some things I want to get done, can you help? You know what I mean? So, I don't see you all as non-family, please don't. It's more of, I'm just waiting to connect with everybody.
So this is your perfect opportunity. So how long have you been here?
Since July.
And what group do you work in?
I'm actually a part of the HR Master Rotation Program, HR Rotation Program.
Excellent.
And currently I'm supporting inbound sales, retention sales, and sales and marketing, working under Clem Jack.
Well, we met up in the hall, right? Yeah, that's right, yeah. Just waiting for a conference. Yeah, I think I was going to a conference.
So I support the sales, marketing, and business services team at Freedom, as from the HR perspective. So,
All right.
Who else? Who else HR, Jasmine? Here. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
And they're great family members. Yeah. So let's get into your first question. Does anyone have any questions up to this point or anything?
I have something to say. This is Valerie Lynch. You know, when you talk about networking and being comfortable, like you stated earlier, when you're not expecting anything and you start a conversation, it makes it much easier to speak with the person. It makes you more comfortable because you know you're not expecting anything. You don't have an expectation, so to speak. You just try to meet the person, try to get to know the person, and you just start a conversation, and you'd be surprised, oh, how easy you connect. You know, that's just my take.
You're right. Thank you, Valerie, for that feedback. You're absolutely right, because when you meet someone and you just encounter them, they don't know who you are, you don't know who they are, so there's not that whole, you know, predisposed, I have to act a certain way. So it's really, you're right, so I don't even have anything to add to what you just said. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. One of the things that you requested was a top 10. Who are the people, who are the types of people that should be in your networks? So I figured I would do one of those David Letterman, but I'm not funny. It's not really funny. It's just I'm starting from 10 and going down. And I don't, they're not actually in the order of importance, but also they're not mutually exclusive. But one of them definitely is identifying stars. So people who have the career that you want, people who are doing the things that you are doing. Identifying who they are. Do you know what you want to be when you grow up? Sometimes I don't, I mean, honestly. And that's for another reason, because I think with a lot of us, we make these plans and we think about, okay, that's what I want to be. When in fact, a lot of times our careers select us. depending on what it is we do. So I go back to that stake in the road of just about all of my jobs besides two have been ones where people have reached out to me. And so I haven't had to cold interview or kind of reach out. A lot of that is just establishing your own track record such that people want to reach out to you, or when they have opportunities, they reach out to you. So who are those stars? They can be organizationally, within NAMIC, within BPA, and who are the, if you are pushing for something bigger, Steve Jobs, I mean, who are those stars? And then what you do is, you talk to them, and it's always great to talk to them, but more importantly, you want to observe them. Because it's not always what they say. A lot of times it's what they don't say, but actually what you catch them doing. Number 9, thought leaders. And they're smart people who challenge you to think bigger, coming up with new ideas, and you can usually spot them. You're in a room, and then they start talking, you're like, wow, they're really smart. And for a second, you kind of get like a little nervous, like, wow, they're really, really smart. But in fact, I mean, those are the kinds of people that you want to nurture relationships with as well. You may be as smart or smarter as well, so then you feel good, like, wow, this person is as smart as me, in have great conversations. For me, in a lot of cases, I'll hear people and I'll be like, wow, I want to get to know them better, I want to hear more about what they're saying, especially if they're areas that I'm not as familiar with. Warren Buffett is a good example of that. Influencers, and I call them executors. Those are people who know how to get things done. Those are organizational leaders, they're go-to people. And usually you will find them concentrated as the leaders in many different organizations, like I saw Sharice Lilly over there, who, she can't just be a member of a lot of organizations, she's the leader because she's established as such, and they know they can go to a Sharice Lilly. Sharice, thank you for coming. But it's those people that get things done, that have those grand ideas. Another example for those of you who watch Scandal, Olivia Pope. She gets things done, right? I read a story about how Bill Gates got into Microsoft. I'm sorry, not Microsoft, into IBM. Does anyone know that story, what happened? His mother, Mary Gates, sat on the United Way board with John Akers, who was a very high-level executive with IBM. And they were going through this whole RFP process, and of course IBM's only thinking bigger companies. And Mary Gates suggested that they consider some of the smaller companies that are competing against these big companies and to kind of put them in the mix. Well, we know what happened after then, right? IBM, Microsoft secured the DOS contract with IBM, and you know the rest of it's history. That was through an influencer. They were on a board. It wasn't like she strategically said, let me sit down and pitch them on something. They were there because they had a shared interest in something totally different. And so out of that came the birth of a great idea and actually an opportunity. Mentors. We could talk about mentors all day, so I won't spend a lot of time. And mentors could be included in all of these other, the other top 9. But you know how crucial they are? But have you ever been in a situation where you've seen someone where they had one person, one go-to person who believed in them and who kind of pulled them along as they moved up, and then that person left? And so the person with the remaining person is just kind of out there. You've seen that, or have you ever experienced that? So that's why it's important to develop different relationships so that you're not caught out there just really depending on one person. Plus, it's really very difficult to put that pressure on one person, isn't it? For them to be your go-to person in that way. And what was interesting, just in the technology area, they surveyed 650 tech startups. So these are very, very small companies, 20 employees or less. And they said the most significant factor in their success was having mentors. And having different mentors, you know, for different areas of their business. Question on the phone? Okay. Number 6, visionaries, ideators, challengers. Those are, again, ones that encourage you to think big, but they may not take the most traditional approach to it. Anyone know who Guy Kawasaki is? You did?
Yeah, I follow him.
I know, great new book he has now, right? Who is he?
He's a technology follower on Twitter, and he has like millions of followers, and he really just imparts information on just everything you can imagine. That's really interesting in all facets of your life. But yeah, he aggregates that all
Very, very interesting. He's a motivational speaker. He's actually the chief evangelist officer for Apple. And he's got a great new book. I can't remember. I just remember Enchantment is one part of it. But it's Guy Kawasaki. Who has a chief evangelist officer? But he's actually put into place this program that there's a huge waiting list for within Apple, where they want to basically, like catch the fever, drink the Kool-Aid even, more. And so he's really renowned, and he comes up with all of these concepts, but it's all about the people. And so very, very interesting figure, but also someone who is challenging you to think totally differently, using exercises, not just the standard ones that we go through all the time, but these different ones. He's also had some input into the way in which Apple interviews, where I don't know if you've ever interviewed with Apple, or if you've heard about it, but it's very non-traditional, some of the questions that they ask. Connectors, they're the ones who provide you with access to people, resources and information. They know everyone, and they are also willing to connect you. Who do you know that's a connector? Jasmine is absolutely a connector.
Lisa Daniels.
Lisa Daniels. Who's Lisa Daniels? Oh, okay, that's your name. Okay, see you. Carol. You. I'd like to think I am. Yes, I'd like to think I am. Thank you. Paul Revere. One of the most interesting stories, I think, because I like to also study history, was during the Revolutionary War. Do you know that there was someone else who took that ride? Yes. Who was it?
I can't remember his name, but it was actually just on History Channel.
Oh, really? Wow, I missed that one. So there were actually 2 riders. I found out more recently when I started researching this that there were 3. But Paul Revere is the only one who really, he's the one who went down in history. The Longfellow's poem was written about him, but he was the one who said the British are coming, and warned, and actually he warned the fellow citizens. The way in which he warned the citizens, as opposed to William Dawes was the person who also rode with him. No one really knows about William Dawes. You know why? Because they had 2 different approaches. Paul Revere, he was a connector. So he was very well connected. He also was connected to a lot of very well connected people. So that's just like me when I tell Taryn, and I know Taryn knows 20 people that she's going to tell, and Jasmine knows 40 people that she's going to tell. That was one approach that he took, and he was able to gather the militia, and they were able to, really head off what could have really been something much more disastrous. William Dawes went from house to house. He went from door to door, knocking on the doors. Can you see what the difference is? That's like me going to you, and then me going to you, and then you see what the difference is? And so that's why you want to develop relationships with connectors. It's the same thing with LinkedIn. People ask about LinkedIn all the time. Who has a negative feeling about LinkedIn, like LinkedIn hasn't really done much for them? That's great. I hear that, and I'm glad that no one has that feeling, because LinkedIn is what? Is it one way or 2 way? What you put in, you get out, right? So we're just going in there looking for, LinkedIn hasn't helped me get a job, LinkedIn hasn't helped me do this. I have a lot of people reach out to me that are friends that also have looked at my friends list, or what is it, are they called friends on LinkedIn? I should get connections. I know you saw them on Facebook, right? Connections, yeah. But they'll say, I see that you're connected with Ramona. Can you make this connection for me? And so that's the whole concept of connecting with connectors. Multiplies your network, right? Informational powerhouses. These are the all-knowing, and they have a lot of information about a lot of things. Internally, you'll probably find this, I found it funny, but I think it's true. Omar Bowers is an informational powerhouse. Omar Bowers knows all the people, he knows where to go, he knows where the bones are buried. Omar knows, he does. I call him the mayor. And so when I get like the skinny on someone and I'm having lunch with and I don't know who they are, I'll call him Omar, who is, and Omar knows, he always knows. So you probably know other people like that.
And you show them how cute.
Shall I repeat that? Did you hear any of that? Did you hear what I just said? Did you hear what I just said? Can we rewind? Can we rewind?
Watch the videotape though.
I was talking about informational powerhouses, and they're the people that know everyone, they know where the information is, they know where the bones are buried. And I used you as an example of Omar knows everyone. Everyone knows Omar. If you need to get skinny, Omar will give it to you. If you need the political line, Omar will give you that as well. I'm sorry to embarrass you. I know I'm embarrassed. I know your personality. I didn't think you were going to be here, so I talked to him and told me he had something else to do, so I'm sorry, Omar. Number 3, the sponsor champion. And this is the person who speaks for and advocates for you when you're not in the room. These are very powerful people. And they're the ones who are, I'm sure, giving you feedback to prepare you for what's next, but also they're the ones who are speaking on your behalf. They're the ones who are defending you. And they're people who are just like, they're your people. So those relationships, you gotta nurture those, right? Got to. Number 2 is the realist. And those are the people that keep it real. You can rely on them to be brutally honest with you. Sometimes they're even your frenemies. They may be people that you work with, who you may not have the best dynamic with, but you're going to challenge yourself, and they constantly challenge you because they question you. But they also will, the brutal honesty, like my mother is a realist for me. She really is. My mother will tell me, anyone who watches Being Mary Jane, her mother is like my mother, okay? So who watches Being Mary Jane? No one else does besides me, okay? So when her mother told her when she was on TV, and afterwards her mother says to Mary Jane, don't wear that lipstick anymore. That lipstick wasn't good for you. That's my mother. She's going to be honest, so I'm going to put that lipstick in the back of the drawer and not wear it again. But those are the people that, I mean, they will keep it real for you. And in most cases, you want to heed what they say, because they're saying things that other people may not be saying. But you don't want to heed everything they say, because if that's the only person that's saying that to you, then you got to say, okay, is there another agenda? But those realists, they serve purposes. And a lot of them are not the frenemies. I mean, that's just one category. Those are people that will just, and those are people sometimes that you go to because you know they're going to be brutally honest with you. If you say you want to be, the next CEO of Apple, and your skills and experience don't line up, they're going to be like, okay, really? So, and I know that's an exaggeration of it. But they're also the ones, they may not say anything, but they'll kind of give you like the side eye when you say something where they're like, okay, you're right. And the last one is the cheerleader. And if you have a best friend, or if you have a series of best friends, they'll probably be that person. It could be your sister or brother. If you're in a fraternity or sorority, it could be one of your sorority sisters or fraternity brothers. But they support you. They take the same attitude you do. Sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eats you, right? And so they're there to lift you up. They're also there they may be in that realist category as well, but they're going to be your biggest fan. So if you decide, I don't care, I'm defying all odds, I'm ignoring everything else, I want to go for this, that person is saying, okay, move over, I'm riding with you. I think most of you know who that might be for me, or a lot of you who know me. But actually there are quite a few people who play that role for me. Quite a few people who I can't imagine life without. Quality versus, okay, so before I move on to the next one, let me see how I'm doing my time. Okay, quality versus quantity. The rest of them are not, the answers are not quite as long. Before I get into that, any questions or anything you want to add that you think I missed around the 10 top people or personalities?
You are now muted. You are now unmuted.
Questions from anyone on the phone about my top 10?
Yes, I missed number 4. If you could please repeat that one. And number 4.
Number 4 was Omar Bowers. I'm sorry. Omar was the informational powerhouse.
Okay.
Actually, it's the one, if you were going 10 down, it's number 6.
Okay, I'm sorry. I probably mixed that with the mentors. The visionary, ideator, challenger. And that's the one where I use the example of Guy Kawasaki. Steve Jobs is another example.
It's the one that I would say was right after influencers and executives.
Okay, so I'll just go really quickly. 10 was stars, 9 was thought leaders, 8 was influencer executors, 7 was mentors, 6 visionary ideator challenger, 5 connectors. Is that one I missed? No. 4 informational powerhouse, 3 sponsored champion, 2 realist, and number 1 cheerleader.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes. Yes.
What would you say is the biggest difference between the sponsor champion and the cheerleader?
The sponsor or champion usually is someone within your line of work. They're probably a boss or a mentor here or others that can influence your career directly because they're sitting in there when you're not, or they're in a business meeting, or maybe you're on a board together and they're looking for the next recommendations for president or something like that. The cheerleader, that they could be the same person too. They could be your number one cheerleader, but I look at that as a person who is also part of your support system. And so when I think of it, I think of like more of a friend, or like I say, a sibling that's going to support you throughout. And they may be people that you've had long-term relationships with or short-term, but it's more of, they could be one to say, and that's why I say it's not mutually exclusive, but when I think about a cheerleader, I think about some of my best friends, people that have been with me through the journey. I think about, relatives, I think about sorority sisters. Other questions? All right, so I'll move on to quality versus quantity. So the question was, what's better? And I'll ask you that real quick. What do you think? Quality, so a few deep relationships or a lot of, maybe shallow, maybe not, but a lot of relationships. So would you rather have 500 connections on LinkedIn or let's say 10 deep ones where where you're actively managing those relationships? And it's a different answer depending on your circumstances.
I would say the quality relationship.
Quality. Yes?
Depends on what you're looking to do. Like I was reading this book by Adam Grant called Give and Take, and it said like if you have really deep connections, chances are you're probably all in the same circle. So if you're looking to expand beyond that circle, it might be a bit challenging because you all like really click and have very deep relationships. But if you have a broader base, that might enable you to explore other opportunities if you try to expand beyond where you currently are.
Great point. Great point. So you do want to have deep relationships, but you also want to have diverse relationships. And for a lot of us, I consider so many in this room to be members of my family. At the same time, a lot of us are exposed to the same things. We're within the same industry. So expanding beyond that, you definitely need that diversity as well. Or if you're looking for a new job, then it's nice to have those 10 quality relationships, and you may get actually more out of them than having hundreds of LinkedIn connections, but at the same time, by connecting and being connected to connectors, that's going to expose you to a lot more opportunities, because it's the ones that people send them on a regular basis jobs and say, if you know anyone, please forward those along. So it's really, like you say, situational. But the biggest thing there is, no matter how many relationships you have, those that you think are most crucial, it's really, the important thing is to invest the time and energy into developing those. And as I was saying before, not just when you need something, but when you don't, reaching out to see how you can help them. If you come across an article that you think would be beneficial for them, sending it to them. Or just reaching out and saying, hey, I haven't talked to you in 6 months. I know you're busy. If we can't have coffee, just, how are you doing? Just shoot me a message back. Those are the things that I think really matter. How many of you have experienced this where you look on your phone rings, you look on your phone and you say, oh gosh, because you know it's someone who only calls you when they need something, and you don't want to not be responsive and pick up the phone, but you've been there, right? Have you ever felt that on the other side as well, where you wish you had invested more because you do need someone and you hadn't done that?
Yeah.
So that's a crucial part of the developing those relationships, is maintaining those as well. The next question, how and when to connect. This is really, really easy. How do you connect? wherever and whenever you can. If it's an elevator, if it's someone who said something and you're going to see a guest speaker, if you're at a conference, if it's something where, for some of us, I love her shoes, where to get, they can be as random as that, but really, how you do it is up to you. Just do it, just connect. And then the when, I already mentioned that, when you don't need anything is really the best time. And what to say or do, I added or do, to attract and maintain the relationship, going with the perspective of, or the question of, how can we help one another? How can I help you instead of what can I get out of this? And sometimes when we do these massive coffee here, lunch there, we'll meet in the afternoon and all of those things, and we go through that frenzy, we finish that and we realize we just don't have as much time. We've lost a lot of energy and lost a lot of money, but really what have we gotten out of that? So that's really never the right approach unless you're in job mode or something like that, but it's really making time to nurture those relationships along the way. And I just have a couple of don'ts real quick. One is never dismiss anyone as unimportant. I had that experience where someone talked to me, and I don't say, I'm vice president such and such, I just say, well, I manage such and such, and I can see the look on their face like, oh, she can't help me. So then it's I'm talking and they're looking beyond me to other people. Don't ever dismiss anyone as unimportant because you don't know, even if they know someone. One person who worked on my team for years, was very junior to me, was probably one of the most instrumental people in terms of my development. I mean, professionally, I knew what I needed to do. I didn't look the role. And Therese, you know who I'm talking about. I didn't look the role. I didn't know the right protocol. Then this person really helped me working on my team as much as I helped her, and we're still extremely good friends to this day. And then the last thing, I already mentioned it, not to reach out only when you need something. So I know I went through this really quickly because I went through the top 10. I took a long time for that. What time is it now? I'd like to open it up for questions now. Did I answer everything? I'll start asking you questions. Okay. Sharice. Thank you, Sharice. So how do you get someone to mentor you? I can tell you that one of the most challenging things for us as leaders sometimes is when someone comes and says, will you be my mentor? Because it's my opinion that you need more than one mentor. You really do, which means you've got to invest more time and energy into it because no one can be that one person for you. We talk about the example of when that happens or one champion or when you really put your eggs kind of in one basket. So it's really, you want to, once you've made that connection with them, whatever, if you say, I'm going to call you for lunch or something, you follow up right away. If they don't respond right away, because I know some of us get hundreds of messages a day, don't take it as counting the days. How many of you do this? I emailed her on Monday, today's Friday, it's 5 days and she hasn't got back to me. You were important that moment that she got that, and then her boss came into the office and she said, okay, I'll get back to that. She probably put that little red flag on it and just didn't get back to it. So whether it's 5 days or 15 days, it just kind of fell off. Now, you don't want anyone for it to follow for that long period of time, but if you want to establish that relationship from the beginning, reach out again. Reach out again. They probably will not have, you probably won't have that experience a second time as well. So it's beginning to develop that relationship, and it's also not having that expectation that this person can be your end all. And so if it is, I'd like for you to mentor me, come up with a plan. What is it you specifically want from them? When you come, and Ramona knows this, when you come and you sit down, you come with something that you want to talk about, something that they can help you out with specifically. And you come with an expectation that if someone's asking Sharice to be, if you're asking Sharice to be your mentor, so are 50 other people easily. And so go knowing that if that person agrees to mentor you or to even say, well, you know what, I don't know if I can invest the time to mentor you, but I would like to continue to help you out, you be the person who manages that relationship. So you reach out, you schedule those, and you keep that contact going with that person, but also manage that expectation that they may, as kind as they are and generous as they are, that they just may not have that time to be your mentor. And it's managing your own expectation. Yes, Jasmine.
So I also wanted to share that I found it easier to not tell people that they are my mentor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because when you put that ask out, it creates a pressure from the other person in terms of what you mean, what you need, so on and so forth. And so invariably, I have mentors who don't know they are my mentors, but the way that I engage with them in conversations allow me to give them something that they find valuable and reciprocate it. And so sometimes you don't have to ask, I guess that's what my point is. And you can get as much benefit from those kind of informal relationships as the ones that are, that were laid out earlier.
Thank you. That's a great point too, because you can have as many mentors as you want in your mind. Sharice, you are one of my mentors in my mind. Thank you for bringing that. I saw another hand. There was another hand when Sharice put hers up. Yes, Selena.
Earlier we were talking about networking and being authentic and having a motive. And for me, with networking, most people who are trying to network have a motive. So I don't think that it's truly bad to have a motive if you're going to an event or you're trying to network with people. I think you can still be authentic. But most people who are networking have some form of a motive, even if it's minute. Like it's some reason that you want to connect with other people. But I think that that's okay. But you do want to be authentic in yourself. Like people can kind of feel and see when you're being like real with them or if you're being fake. But on that same token, it's okay to have a motive. Like when you're reaching out to people or a VP or someone you see that you admire and you reach out to them, you have a motive. It may not be a negative motive, but your motive is, I like that person. I want to be in their circle. So that's positive. And when you reach out to them, you are being authentic.
Thanks, Selena. I'm glad you brought that out because I apologize if I communicated that you should never have a motive. Because even just getting to know someone, that's a motive. That's an agenda. So we work together. We have that in common. I'm sitting next to this person. I want to get to know this person better. So there's always a motive. I think what I was trying to stress was the whole, the difference when it's someone who, if they want to get to know you because you're a leader or because you have something in common, that's absolutely great. I think it's more when the connection is made or when the attempt at communicating is made only when they want something. Yes, Janine?
I think to piggyback off of that, because I used to look at networking that way, and I've changed my perspective a lot on networking as I've gotten older and really pretty much grown into my own too. I'm more of an introvert. I call myself a functioning extrovert, so I have to kind of push myself out there with networking. But I agree. I think everybody does have a motive when they go to a networking event. You're there for a reason. But I think what I had to change the perspective on was my expectations of it, and what I expected out of those conversations I was having with all of these people. And now I just go for sometimes practice on my elevator, speech or pitch. Sometimes just to get to know people without really expecting much in return, but being really happy when it does. Or maybe I can use it later, or someone might get in touch with me later and ask me for something. So I think it's a matter of just looking at it more about not having an expectation that if you go and meet somebody that you may have a motive to meet, that you're going to get anything back that day or at all. It just is that you achieved the goal that you wanted to.
This is Valerie. Just to piggyback on what she just said, it's okay to do have a motive, but sometimes if we allow the motives to be more than what it really is, then we forget, the person whom we're trying to emulate, so to speak. It becomes more about us than the individual, because we're just focusing on the motive itself. We're focusing on what we want from that person and forget that that person might be looking for, might need something from us also. So I think it kind of works both ways. We just have to be careful as to, how we go about it.
Sure, you're right. All of these really, really great points. Networking should not feel like a job, though. It should come a little bit more naturally. And there's sometimes when I have conversations, because I do introduce myself to people all the time, and sometimes they're receptive, and sometimes they're, okay, what does she want? Who is she? Is she interested in me? I mean, so I run into that, but it's still, it doesn't stop me because you're not going to connect with everyone, but I think it's also I feel like it's my responsibility as a leader in a lot of cases if it's someone who I don't recognize, because I don't know, is this your first day? Is this, and it's not just people of color, it's people in general. If there's something interesting, like I say, sometimes it's just shoes. How many of us share a love for shoes or handbags? And so I might see, so it's all these different things that you may connect on, and it almost, and to a degree, it almost doesn't matter. Those people that will stick, they will be the ones that will stick. So, but it's something where you need it. It's not like we can go through, especially in a corporation or in life, or even if we're entrepreneurs, we can't avoid networking. And so it is something that we want to embrace. I'll go back to what I said in the beginning, which is, if you're feeling discomfort about it, the other person is too. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, hey, I'm going to say something to Willie, but he may not say anything back. Well, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Or if Willie does, then it's another connection. So don't make it be work.
Yes. One thing I want to say to that too is I think people start too big. Start small. How about saying hi to people on the way to your office? I don't understand who's on your floor with you. Because you'll find, especially in Comcast, when the floor turns over like 5 times, you kind of met 50 people in that conversation. But now when you see them in the elevator, you can say hi to them, what you're doing, what you're working on, and you ultimately connection to that person with this person with that person. So start small. Try to start somewhere and spread the product. So start small.
And I'm glad you said that too, in terms of starting small. Thank you, because you don't want to start all of a sudden saying, I'm going to do this networking thing, and you just kind of jump out there, because then you're stuck with, I shouldn't say stuck, I'm sorry, but then you've got coffees on your schedule, you've got lunches, and then you've got after work, soda or whatever, and you look and you're like, oh my goodness, I've totally booked my calendar, and I'm not sure how effective that is, because then you kind of feel overwhelmed. And so it kind of backfires. So it's really start at the pace that you think is comfortable, even if it is just a hello, even if it is just who's in the office next to me. Yes, Andrea?
So you made a good point about connecting with people and not just people of color. Could you talk about the significance of networking with individuals who don't look like you and who may have a role that you might want to learn about?
Great question. So networking with people who don't look like you, you don't have a choice. You really don't. It really is necessary for your success, because unfortunately there's not going to be one group that has all the answers and all the opportunities and what you need. So that networking, I mean, you can practice with the people that you're comfortable with, like, the people that I know in here, but in terms of, where the opportunities are, there are too many decision makers they represent all different ethnicities, different education levels, they may be in different areas, and so you never ever want to limit your network to just people who look like you. It's really, it's expanded beyond that. I think Sharon's the only Hawaiian I ever met, and one of my dear friends, but it's also just, it's the ethnicity, but it's also that whole diversity of thought, having different perspectives, and just, you never know who it is that you're going to need the support from. So, get out there.
And just to add to her point, how about when I find when I'm networking, it's just sort of becoming a lot of women, and I'm not necessarily networking with a lot of men, which I would want to be more of a mixed bag. Like, how do you approach that?
Go where the men are? I don't need to be shy about it, but really, you're right, because, we've got these different networks and all of that. I think we've got a good cross-section here. I think if you look across any of the ERGs, here's a good cross-section of, people representing just, diverse groups, I mean, all over the place. And so exposing yourself to those different groups is really, you know, and not connecting with just the women when you go to those events, but connecting with others as well. It's really just pulling yourself out of that.
Barb, how about I suggest
Yes.
that, what's your name? Sine. Omar.
I didn't want to interrupt you, Barb, but, so like, there are other organizations, right? One, Name It, which I'm a member of, and many of these folks in the room are, where you can expose yourself to men, myself, and others. And it is somewhat of a, you know, when they talk about starting small, that's really where I kind of started. And got to know a lot of the folks that are in this group, so I totally recommend that as a gateway into your networking and, you know, me, men, or whomever, right? It's actually, the majority of it is actually women, but there are a number of men if that's something that we can do.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I know it's a couple minutes after 1. I won't think it rude if you either have to hang up or if you have to go, because I know I appreciate the time that you all have spent. So feel free to, if you need to go. You had a question, Rich? Your hand was up when the interview was, or did someone answer it already?
I just want to reinforce what Omar said. Name It is a great gateway.
Yep.
It's a network.
Spoken like a true vice president.